Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about sinusitis. First, first and foremost, we have maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is a well-developed sinus at birth. This is the first sinus to develop. This reaches the adult size by 15 years of age. Maxillary sinus is the most common site of bacterial sinusitis. This is the most common site of non-invasive fungal sinusitis. On X-ray, the maxillary sinus is visible by 4th to 5th month after birth. It completely it is completely developed by 9 years of age. This is the largest sinus present in our body. The floor of the maxillary sinus is related to second premolar, and also it is related to first molar. This maxillary sinus is also called as antrum of Highmore. Then we have ethmoid sinus. Ethmoid sinus is it is well developed at birth. This is well developed at birth, and it reaches adult size by 12 years of age. Mostly it is nematized at birth. It is the most common cause of sinusitis in children because it is nematized at birth itself. It leads to orbital cellulitis. It is the most common. It most commonly causes adenocarcinoma in woodworkers. The X-ray of ethmoid sinus is visible at first year of age, and it is complete by puberty. Most common cause of acute sinusitis in children is ethmoid sinus because it is nematized at birth itself. Then frontal sinus. Frontal sinus is the largest sinus to develop. Frontal sinus develops 2 years after birth. It is called as Pott's puffy tumor. Here it causes mucocele. It is the most common site of ivory osteoma. X-ray is visible at 6 years of age. Maximum size is achieved. Maximum size of frontal sinus is achieved by puberty. Then the next sinus which is important here is sphenoidal sinus. Sphenoidal sinus, this is actually not present at birth, and it reaches the full size by 15 years of age. It reaches the full size. The most common cause of cavernous sinus thrombophlebitis is sphenoidal sinus. Sphenoidal sinus is the most common cause of cavernous sinus thrombophlebitis. X-ray appears by the age of 4 years of age. Roof of the sinus in sphenoidal sinus is related to the pituitary gland, and the lateral wall includes optic nerve, internal carotid artery, cavernous sinus, and cranial. It also involves cranial nerve 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Then if you see the nerve supply of paranasal sinuses. First, nerve supply of all the paranasal sinuses. First, maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is supplied by maxillary nerve, infraorbital and areolar nerve. Then frontal sinus. Frontal sinus is supplied by ophthalmic nerve, which is the sphenoidal branch of ophthalmic nerve. And ethmoidal sinus is supplied by ophthalmic nerve, which is rasociliary branch of ophthalmic nerve. Along with it, maxillary from sphenopalatine fossa. Then we have sphenoidal sinus. Sphenoidal sinus is supplied by ophthalmic nerve, that is nasociliary branch of ophthalmic nerve with maxillary nerve. Then, in the frontal sinus, there is one important thing, especially in the posterior wall of the frontal sinus, there are venous drainage channels. There are some venous drainage channels which are called as foramina of Breschet, which are called foramina of Breschet. Then we have to learn about acute sinusitis. In acute sinusitis, it is acute inflammation of paranasal sinus which is present more than 7 days but less than 4 weeks of duration, that is 1 to 4 weeks of duration. The most common the most common sinus involved is maxillary, followed by frontal, followed by ethmoidal, then sphenoidal. Most common sinus involved in children is ethmoidal sinus. Then, if you see the etiology of acute sinusitis, it causes secondary bacterial infection following rhinitis, that is viral. Then, the most commonly it includes Streptococcus pneumonia. The second most common cause of acute sinusitis is Haemophilus influenza. Others are Moraxella. Now, if you see the clinical features have some criteria. We have major criteria and minor criteria. Major criteria includes facial pain, pressure congestion, fever, nasal obstruction, post-nasal discharge, and hyposmia are seen in major criteria. And in minor criteria, the patient will have headache, halitosis, and dental pain is seen in minor criteria. So for diagnosis, at least we should have two major criteria, or the patient and or one major plus two minor criteria should be present in the patient. Then, maxillary sinusitis. In maxillary sinusitis, the pain is present in the upper jaw radiating to gums and teeth. Cough and stooping will activate the pain in the upper jaw. It also causes headache in the frontal region, and there will be tenderness over the cheek. Then maxillary sinusitis. Then in frontal sinusitis, there is headache over the frontal region, and this headache is mainly periodic in nature. That is, this headache is called as office headache because the pain is maximum in the midday and in the evening, whereas it is minimum in the evening. It is maximum in midday and minimum in the evening. The tenderness is along the frontal sinus floor above the medial canthus, and there is edema of upper eyelid is seen. Then we have ethmoidal sinusitis. Ethmoidal sinusitis is most commonly seen in infants and young children. Here there is pain over the nasal bridge and inner canthus of eye. There is pain, and we will also see tenderness present along the inner canthus of eye, along with the edema of upper and lower eyelids is seen in ethmoidal sinusitis. Then sphenoiditis is also rare. Here in sphenoiditis there is severe occipital or vertical headache, which is sometimes referred to as mastoid process. Here in sphenoiditis, the pain is present retroorbitally. It is present retroorbitally in close proximity to the fifth nerve. And there is post-nasal drip in the posterior rhinoscopy. There is post-nasal drip is seen on posterior rhinoscopy. So this is about sphenoiditis. So if we will have to mark the areas of tenderness. So if I draw a person, just a minute. I know the picture is not that good, but still. Okay. First, in maxillary sinus, tenderness is present over the upper jaw from mainly over the cheeks. There is tenderness over the cheeks. Then, in frontal sinusitis, there is tenderness over the frontal floor, sinus floor above the medial canthus. Then there is ethmoidal sinusitis. In ethmoidal sinusitis, the tenderness is seen along the inner canthus, which is noted. So these are the points of tenderness. Then, if you see diagnosis, the diagnosis is done most commonly clinically, and if we do anterior rhinoscopy, anterior rhinoscopy shows red, shiny, swollen mucous membrane near the ostium of sinus. Nowadays, if there is first infection, now we do always do CT scan without contrast, which will see the clouding of hair cells are seen. Then on treatment, you will see, first we will give medical treatment. Because it is caused by bacteria, we give antibiotics for 2 weeks, that is 10 to 14 days, where we give amoxicillin with clavulanic acid is given. Nasal decongestants are given along with steam inhalation is also given. Surgery is not done except in complications. We generally do not prefer doing surgery. This is about the acute sinusitis. Just a minute. So here we have learnt about the important points about sinusitis. I would like to discuss with about some points which I missed. Okay, I missed answering, so I would like to discuss about them. Okay, so just a minute, right? So we have to learn about the first etiology of all the sinuses in general. So if you see the etiology of all the sinuses, sinusitis can occur due to nasal infections. Sinus mucosa is a continuation of nasal mucosa. So if there is any infection in the nose, then it can goes I mean spread into the sinuses, causing sinusitis. Swimming and diving can also cause infections, because in swimming and diving the infected water can enter the sinuses through the ostia. Whenever there is trauma, this can penetrating trauma or compound fractures can also cause a direct infection of sinus mucosa. Or dental infections. In dental infections, especially maxillary sinus, because it is almost in direct relation with the teeth, especially infections of premolar and molar teeth during their extraction, or any infections can cause acute sinusitis. Then, what are the predisposing factors of infection? So, if you see the predisposing factors of infection, the predisposing factors include: one, we have obstruction of sinus wall. There is obstruction of sinus ventilation and drainage. So, this obstruction, normally the sinuses are well ventilated, but sometimes they secrete some small amounts of mucus. But any factor that interfere with their function can cause sinusitis. Like if we do nasal packing, or if there is any deviated septum, hypertrophic turbinates, or edema of sinus ostia, or nasal polyp. That means if anything obstructs the drainage of sinus ostia into the nasal cavity, then there is predisposition to infection. Then sometimes there are some environmental factors which can predispose to sinus infection, especially cold environment and wet climate can predispose to sinus infection. Then if the person is immunocompromised or poor general health, like presence of diabetes mellitus or nutritional deficiencies or recurrent attacks of exanthematous fevers like measles, chickenpox and whooping cough. All these will predispose to sinusitis. Bacteria like Streptococcus pneumonia, Haemophilus influenza, or Moraxella catarrhalis, Streptococcus pyogenes, Staphylococcus, and Klebsiella are associated with um, sinusitis. Then, what is the pathology of sinusitis? First and foremost, there is presence of infection. First and foremost, there is presence of infection of sinus mucosa. So whenever there is inflammation, whenever there is infection, there is inflammation with hyperemia, exudation of fluid, outpouring of polymorphonuclear cells, and there is increased activity of serous and mucinous glands. So initially, if you see, the exudate which you see is serous, but later this becomes mucopurulent or purulent exudates. There can be uh, severe infection which can completely destroy the mucosal lining, can also be seen sometimes. So these are the general features of sinusitis. Then there is one important test which is not generally done nowadays, but because it is mentioned in textbook, I would like to just name it. In maxillary sinus, we have a test for maxillary sinusitis. We used to do in the past a test which is called as postural test. In postural test, first we will see that there is no pus in the middle meatus, and then after that you will decongest the, first you will put the cotton which is soaked in an vasoconstrictor, and it is put in the sinus, and then the patient is made to sit with the affected sinus turned up. That means if there is right sided sinus is turned up, then he has to face the neck like this in such a way that the affected sinus is turned up. Okay, like this he will have to face it. So if once he turns up like this, if there is any pus in the maxillary sinus, that will directly drain into the nose, and you will see discharge in the nose within 10 to 15 minutes. This is called as postural test, which used to be done in the past. And one more thing is, if we do rhinoscopy, that is posterior rhinoscopy, if you do posterior rhinoscopy, if we do, then if there is see, if there is maxillary sinusitis, then we see the pus coming out from middle meatus. It is not generally, it is difficult to see, but yet sometime in the past they used to diagnose with this also. If there is frontal sinusitis also, we will see that the pus is coming out from middle meatus. Whereas if it is ethmoidal sinusitis, here you will see the pus which is seen either in the middle meatus or it can be in the superior meatus, depending on whether the ethmoidal sinuses involved are anterior group of ethmoid sinus or posterior group of ethmoid sinus. Then on posterior rhinoscopy in sphenoidal sinusitis, we see that the pus is coming out from the superior sinus, superior meatus. So these are the important points about acute sinusitis. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.